Welcome back to the channel, Valuable Coins HD, Composition, Value, and Legacy of United States Coins Changed Forever. Among the most fascinating pieces from that time is the Washington $quarter dollar of 1965, a coin that many people see every day without realizing it holds an incredible story and, in some extremely rare cases, an extraordinary value. What if I told you that the coin you casually spend for a snack or leave in your car's cup holder could actually be worth a life-changing amount of money? Stay with me, because the 1965 Washington $quarter dollar has secrets that could make you look at your spare change in a whole new light. Let's begin with a little history. Before 1965, U.S. quarters were made of 90% silver and 10% copper. But due to the rising cost of silver in the early 1960s, the U.S. government decided to change the coin's metal composition to preserve the nation's silver reserves. The mint officially switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition starting in 1965, with an inner copper core sandwiched between two outer layers of nickel. That's why quarters made after this year don't have the same intrinsic metal value as the earlier silver ones. But here's where it gets fascinating. During the transition, a few rare 1965 Washington quarters were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from 1964. These accidental silver 1965 quarters are among the most valuable coins ever discovered from the modern era. Now, imagine this: while millions of regular 1965 quarters rolled off the minting machines, a few special coins were mistakenly struck with silver planchets that were supposed to be melted down. These errors escaped into circulation unnoticed for years. Many collectors and treasure hunters have spent decades searching for one of these elusive coins, and some have been lucky enough to find them. When discovered, these special silver 1965 quarters can fetch staggering prices at auctions. But that's not the only kind of rarity you might find from that year. Let's talk about mint marks and identifying features. The 1965 Washington quarter does not have a mint mark, which was part of the mint's effort to discourage coin hoarding during the metal composition changeover. However, experts have found that certain striking variations, differences in die alignment, double die errors, or unusual planchet surfaces, can dramatically increase a coin's value. These small imperfections, visible only under magnification, are what make some coins stand out as unique specimens among millions of ordinary ones. When you look at a 1965 Washington quarter, take a close look at the fine details. On the obverse, you'll see the familiar portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, facing left, with the inscriptions, "Liberty" above and "In God We Trust" to the left. The date, 1965, is struck boldly below his neck. On the reverse, the majestic eagle with outstretched wings sits atop a bundle of arrows, surrounded by olive branches, a symbol of both strength and peace. Every small detail matters when it comes to grading and evaluating a coin's value. Coins with strong, sharp details and minimal wear are classified as higher-grade specimens and can sell for exponentially more than those with heavy circulation marks. Now here's something that excites collectors: error varieties. Some 1965 quarters show striking errors like off-center strikes, broad strikes, or double dies, where parts of the lettering or Washington's profile appear slightly doubled. There are also transitional errors, where the coin was mistakenly struck on a silver planchet from 1964 instead of the new copper-nickel planchet. Those are the true treasures. Imagine a coin minted in 1965 but made of silver instead of the regular clad material. That's what collectors dream about. One of the best ways to identify a silver 1965 quarter is by looking at the coin's edge. Regular clad quarters have a distinct copper-colored line along the rim because of the copper core. But if you find one without that copper line and with a solid silver color edge, you might have one of those incredibly rare transitional errors. Another test is weight. A silver quarter weighs slightly more, about 6.25 grams, compared to 5.67 grams for a standard clad coin. So if you have a precise scale, that small difference can mean a huge fortune. Over the years, some of these rare 1965 quarters have made headlines by selling for enormous sums of money. Collectors from around the world bid aggressively for them, as they represent a historic transition in U.S. coinage, the end of the silver era and the beginning of modern clad coins. Even beautifully preserved, regular 1965 quarters in mint state condition can fetch significant premiums among numismatists. Coins that have been kept untouched, with mirror-like surfaces, are graded as MS-67 or higher, and those are considered treasures of American coin history. It's incredible to think how many people have handled these coins over the years without realizing their worth. Some have been passed down through generations, stored in jars, or forgotten in drawers, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. Every coin tells a story, from the day it was struck at the mint to the hands it passed through. And when you find one of these special coins, you're not just holding money, you're holding history. The Washington Quarter series continues to be one of the most beloved among collectors. Its design, its symbolism, and its evolution reflect the story of America itself: resilience, change, and enduring value. Whether it's made of silver or clad, each coin carries a piece of the nation's past. But some of those coins carry far more than history, they carry real, tangible wealth. Now imagine this: somewhere, in an old collection, or maybe in your pocket right now, there could be one of those rare 1965 Washington quarters struck on a silver planchet, preserved in perfect condition, gleaming under the light, waiting to be recognized. When such a coin appeared at auction, collectors couldn't believe their eyes. After careful examination and grading, this rare piece of American minting history sold for a jaw-dropping amount that left everyone in awe. That one special 1965 Washington quarter dollar was sold for an unbelievable value of $110,000. Today, unnoticed, tucked away in old change jars, resting quietly in drawers, or circulating for years without anyone realizing the hidden value it could hold. Yet, beneath its simple appearance lies a world of history, artistry, and, in some cases, incredible worth. So, if you've ever come across a 1973 Washington quarter, it's time to take a closer look, because this humble 25-cent coin could surprise you in more ways than one. Let's begin with a bit of background. The Washington Quarter series began in 1932, created to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, the first President of the United States and one of the most respected figures in American history. Designed by sculptor John Flanagan, the coin's obverse features the noble and determined profile of Washington, a symbol of leadership and integrity. On the reverse side, you'll find the majestic bald eagle, wings spread wide as it clutches a bundle of arrows, surrounded by olive branches, a powerful image that combines strength with the nation's enduring desire for peace. By the time the 1973 Washington quarter was minted, the coin had already undergone a major transformation in its composition. Gone were the days of silver quarters. After 1964, the U.S. Mint had switched to a copper-nickel-clad composition due to rising silver prices. The 1973 quarter, like its recent predecessors, was made with an inner copper core sandwiched between outer layers of nickel, giving it the familiar silvery look but without the intrinsic value of precious metal. Yet, what makes some 1973 quarters so valuable today has nothing to do with silver. It's all about rarity, condition, and unique minting details that make them stand out among millions of others. During 1973, the U.S. Mint produced quarters at 3 primary locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The coins struck in Philadelphia carried no mint mark, those from Denver bore the D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint produced proof coins marked with an S. Proof coins are made using specially prepared dies and polished planchets, resulting in mirror-like finishes and sharp details that collectors treasure. While millions of quarters were minted that year, only a small number have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition, and that's where the real magic begins. Collectors are always looking for coins that appear exactly as they did the moment they left the mint. These coins, called mint state or proof specimens, can command astonishing premiums depending on their grade. The higher the grade, the sharper the details and the more lustrous the coin's surface. When a 1973 quarter is preserved perfectly, free of scratches, marks, or discoloration, it can easily become a gem in the world of numismatics. But the story doesn't end there. There are also special varieties and error coins that make the 1973 Washington quarter particularly exciting for treasure hunters. Some coins may show doubled features on the lettering or the numbers in the date, known as a double die error. Others may have been struck slightly off-center, leaving parts of the design missing or oddly aligned. In rare cases, coins were struck on planchets intended for other denominations, creating stunning minting anomalies. These errors, though unintentional, are what make coin collecting such a thrilling pursuit. Imagine finding a coin that was never meant to exist, a small mistake from the mint that today can be worth thousands of dollars simply because of its uniqueness, and let's not forget about the role of the mint mark. The small letter beneath the date on the obverse of the coin can make a massive difference in determining its value. For example, the 1973 D quarters from the Denver Mint often show stronger strikes and sharper details, but even among these, only a few have survived in flawless condition. The 1973 S-proof quarters, meanwhile, are known for their exceptional mirror-like surfaces, but even tiny imperfections can affect their grade and value. That's why professional grading from organizations like PCGS or NGC is crucial for collectors who want to know exactly what their coin is worth. What truly elevates the 1973 Washington quarter to legendary status, however, is its connection to a time when the United States was changing rapidly. The early 1970s were marked by cultural shifts, technological advancements, and political transitions. This coin, minted in that era, carries not just monetary value but a piece of American history, a tangible reminder of a nation navigating change while holding on to its traditions. The enduring image of George Washington reminds us of strength, resilience, and the principles upon which the country was built. Now, let's talk about the thrill of discovery. Imagine sifting through a handful of old coins, perhaps inherited from a relative or found in a forgotten piggy bank, and spotting a gleaming 1973 Washington quarter. You turn it under the light and notice its brilliance, the fine details, the crisp edges, the untouched luster. Could it be one of those rare mint-state examples that collectors dream about? Could it be hiding a small error or variation that turns it into a priceless treasure? For some lucky individuals, that dream has become a reality. When rare 1973 quarters appear at auctions in top condition or with unique errors, they ignite bidding wars among passionate collectors. These coins are more than just money, they're pieces of art, slices of history, and symbols of rarity. The value depends on many factors: grade, strike quality, and any visible errors, but the top-tier specimens can sell for life-changing amounts. There's something almost magical about thinking that a coin worth just 25 cents when it was made could now be valued higher than most luxury cars. These coins are proof that history has value beyond numbers, that something as small as a quarter can carry stories, craftsmanship, and mystery that transcend time. So, if you have a 1973 Washington quarter sitting unnoticed in your collection, or if you come across one in circulation, take a moment to examine it carefully. Look for that mint mark, check for signs of doubling, and notice the sharpness of the details. You might just be holding one of those extraordinary coins that make headlines in the world of numismatics. Because somewhere out there, one remarkable 1973 Washington quarter dollar, preserved in breathtaking condition, struck perfectly, and carrying every mark of rarity, stunned collectors and investors alike when it sold for an incredible amount. That special 1973 Washington quarter dollar was valued at an astonishing $90,000. Few coins spark as much curiosity as the Washington quarter dollar from 1974. At first glance, it looks just like any other coin you might find in your pocket change, a simple, everyday quarter. But beneath its familiar design lies a story of history, transition, and hidden value that most people don't realize. For those who truly understand coins, the 1974 Washington quarter is more than a piece of metal. It's a symbol of an era, a work of art, and in some rare cases, a small piece of treasure worth far more than its face value. Let's take a journey back in time to understand what makes this coin so special. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, the founding father and first president of the United States. Designed by the talented sculptor John Flanagan, the coin featured Washington's proud and noble profile on the front, capturing his enduring legacy of leadership and strength. The reverse side displayed the powerful image of a bald eagle, wings spread in a posture of vigilance and pride, the perfect symbol for the nation's spirit. By the year 1974, the Washington quarter had already seen several decades of history. The silver era was long gone, after 1964, quarters were no longer made of 90% silver due to the rising costs of precious metals. Instead, they were produced using a copper-nickel clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between outer layers of nickel, which gave them their silvery shine but not their old intrinsic metal value. Still, even without silver, some of these coins from the 1970s have turned out to be worth small fortunes, especially when they possess rare minting errors or survive in immaculate condition. In 1974, quarters were struck at 3 major U.S. mints: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Each mint left its own subtle mark on the coins. The Philadelphia Mint quarters had no mint mark, the Denver Mint coins carried a small D below the date, and the San Francisco Mint produced beautiful proof coins marked with an S. Proof coins were never meant for circulation, they were struck multiple times with polished dies on special planchets, giving them that mirror-like finish that collectors adore. But even the standard business strike coins from this year can be worth an astonishing amount if they are preserved perfectly or contain unusual errors. Now, let's talk about what collectors look for when hunting for valuable 1974 quarters. One of the most important factors is condition. A coin that looks brand new, without scratches, discoloration, or wear, is considered mint state. The higher its grade, the more valuable it becomes. Coins graded MS67 or MS68 by professional grading services like PCGS or NGC are extremely rare and can command incredible prices. Imagine finding a 1974 quarter that looks like it was just made yesterday: flawless luster, sharp details, and a perfect strike. That's the kind of coin that gets collectors excited and bidders raising their paddles at auction. But beyond condition, errors and varieties make this coin especially thrilling to study. Minting errors are what turn ordinary coins into extraordinary discoveries. Some 1974 quarters were struck off-center, leaving part of the design missing. Others were double-struck, creating ghostly overlapping images. There are even rare transitional errors where coins were struck on the wrong planchets, for example, a quarter accidentally struck on a dime or foreign coin blank. These anomalies are rare, fascinating, and highly sought after because they tell a story of a moment when the minting machinery briefly defied perfection. One of the most intriguing aspects of the 1974 quarter story is its connection to the following year, 1975. You see, there were no quarters dated 1975. That's because the U.S. Mint decided to commemorate the nation's bicentennial in 1976 with a special design and dated all quarters, 1776 to 1976. This means that the 1974 Washington quarter represents the final standard issue of the regular Washington design before the patriotic bicentennial edition. In other words, it marks the end of an era in American coinage, a bridge between the past and the celebration of 200 years of independence. Collectors love coins that represent historical transitions, and the 1974 quarter perfectly captures that moment. It's the last of its kind before the design changed temporarily for the bicentennial. Many people didn't think twice about these coins when they were first released, but today, those who held on to uncirculated examples are discovering that they've been keeping a little piece of American history worth far more than they imagined. The obverse of the 1974 quarter, featuring Washington's timeless profile, remains one of the most recognizable designs in U.S. coinage. The inscriptions, "Liberty" and "In God We Trust," surround his portrait, while the year 1974 is stamped clearly beneath. On the reverse, the eagle sits regally atop a bundle of arrows, with olive branches framing the design, a balance of strength and peace. The artistry and symbolism of this coin continue to resonate with collectors and historians alike, which is part of what keeps its popularity strong decade after decade. But what really drives the 1974 Washington quarter's allure today are those rare finds, the coins that somehow escape the wear and tear of circulation, or that display fascinating minting quirks. When one of these coins appears at auction, it captures the attention of numismatists everywhere. Stories of 1974 quarters selling for incredible amounts continue to fuel the dreams of coin hunters who scour their collections, hoping to find one of these hidden treasures. And here's the best part: it's still possible. These coins are out there, in old coin jars, in dusty boxes tucked away in attics, even in circulation. Every time you get a quarter in change, you might be holding a piece of history worth more than you can imagine. The key is knowing what to look for: pristine surfaces, sharp details, or minting errors that make your coin unique. The 1974 Washington quarter reminds us that the ordinary can sometimes be extraordinary. It's a symbol of craftsmanship, history, and the possibility that value often hides in plain sight. For those who appreciate the beauty and mystery of coin collecting, this coin is a perfect example of why people fall in love with numismatics. Every coin has a story, and sometimes, that story comes with a surprise ending that's hard to believe. Imagine being the lucky person who discovers a flawless 1974 quarter, one that gleams under the light, preserved perfectly for decades, waiting for its true worth to be recognized. That's the thrill that drives collectors, the hope that the next coin they pick up could be the one that changes everything, and indeed, for one of those coins, that dream came true. When a perfect condition 1974 Washington quarter dollar was graded and auctioned, it astonished everyone in the room. Bidders fought to own a piece of numismatic perfection, and when the hammer finally fell, the crowd was left in awe that one remarkable 1974 Washington quarter dollar was sold for an unbelievable $90,000. So the next time you come across a quarter from 1974, don't dismiss it as just pocket change. Take a close look, because you might just be holding one of the most valuable little pieces of American history, a tiny treasure that reminds us that sometimes, even the smallest coins can hold the biggest surprises.